So, let's set the scene. I'm sure you've been here before. It's one of those surprisingly beautiful days. The sun is just beaming, and someone in your company-wide chat decides to spread a little joy. It's a message we've all seen, maybe one we've even sent ourselves.
I mean, the timing is perfect, right? It's basically a weather report that's also a little reminder about, mortality. Enjoy this because it's not going to last. Just a cheerful, well-intentioned nudge to seize the moment, posted for the whole company. Simple, you'd think people would jump on it, right? Maybe share a few pictures from their walk outside, but that is not what happened.
That's it. That's the whole response. One single thumbs up, and then a totally random geometry problem about a tortoise. And this underwhelming and kind of bizarre response really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. Why do these calls to seize the day just completely fall flat when we're at work?
To really get it, we have to look inside the mindset of the modern worker. You know that old saying, no one on their deathbed ever wished they'd worked more? You'd think that would be enough of a wake-up call for anybody. But for so many of us, it just bounces right off. It's like we've built this psychological armor that makes those big truths feel, well, not real.
So what is this armor made of? Well, there are a few key pieces. First, we just take future opportunities for granted. We assume, oh, there'll be another sunny day. Then there's something called future discounting, which is a fancy way of saying we care way more about the reward we can get right now, like finishing that report, than the long-term benefit of our own well-being. We also do this thing called social mirroring. We look around, we see everyone else chained to their desks, and we think, well, I guess I have to be too. But the thickest, strongest piece of this armor, it's the one that equates being busy with being important.
And this is the part that's really insidious, because it goes so deep. This isn't just about ticking boxes on a to-do list. This is about your identity. If somewhere deep down you believe that your value as a person is tied directly to how much you produce, then slowing down doesn't just feel like taking a break, it feels like an existential threat. And that old deathbed line, it can't possibly compete with that. It's a rational argument trying to fight a core belief about who you are.
But here's the thing. This isn't just an individual problem we all need to solve on our own. This whole mindset is enabled and, frankly, encouraged by the corporate system itself. It all feeds into what's basically a one-sided contract between you and your employer.
The source material for this explainer calls it a remarkably elegant extraction mechanism. And that is such a brilliant way to put it. Think about it. Companies benefit massively when their employees internalize this pressure to overwork. The company gets more labor, a lot of it unpaid, and they even get the employees' gratitude for the chance to prove themselves. The whole system is designed so that you do it to yourself, and you feel good about it. And the language we all use props this whole thing up. We praise people for going above and beyond, or for being a real team player. But what's the reality behind those words? Well, it usually means that loyalty only flows one way. Your constant availability just becomes the new normal. And all that extraordinary effort you're putting in, that just quietly becomes the new expectation.
And that's the gut punch, isn't it? This is the core truth of it all. The employee signs this contract in invisible ink with their evenings, their weekends, their mental health. But the company never signed a thing. That feeling of belonging, of being a valued member of the team, can just, poof, vanish with a single email about a reorg.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. All of this led to a poem called The Ledger. And this is where we shift from just analyzing the problem to feeling the raw, human cost of this broken, one-sided deal.
The poem opens with this absolutely chilling, impersonal story. A worker dies at his desk over the weekend, and the corporate machine barely even sputters. The inbox is full, the work needs doing, the replacement is hired, the system just keeps on grinding.
And now it gets deeply personal. This stanza gets to the author's own experience of being laid off back in the 2009 financial crisis. And that language, it's just brutal and direct, disposed of. It perfectly captures that feeling of being used up and then just thrown away, showing how even the most dedicated employee is ultimately disposable.
But here's the turn. That awful experience of being fired, as devastating as it was, actually became a doorway to something else. The author explained that after being laid off, they saw someone else leading a career course and changing people's lives, and realized that was what they wanted to do. The loss wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning, a doorway to finding work with real, actual meaning.
And so we come full circle, back to that classic piece of wisdom. But it lands so differently now, doesn't it? It's not just some abstract quote anymore. It's been earned.
It carries the weight of a real journey through loss and reinvention, reminding us what we really, truly value when everything else is stripped away.
And the poem ends with this incredibly powerful direct call to action. The business ledger, the one that tracks your hours, your projects, your profits, it will never ever be able to calculate your actual worth as a human being. The final lines are a plea: clock out, not just physically from the office, but mentally, and go find your value with the people and in the places that truly matter.
And so that's the question this whole thing leaves us with. It's the big one. It's the question that all the busyness and all the meetings are designed to help us avoid. If your job, your title, your whole professional identity were taken away tomorrow, who would be left? And if that question terrifies you, maybe that's the real work that needs to be done.
Imagine looking out your office window, and it is just the absolute perfect, most beautiful sunny afternoon of the entire year.
Oh man, those rare days.
Right. Especially when it's just a quick break in an otherwise miserable rainy week. So instead of just staring at it, you open up your company's site-wide chat and you type this quick message to your coworkers. You say, "The cold and the rain are returning. Right now it is wonderfully warm and sunny. Carpe Diem."
A totally normal human thing to say.
Exactly. And the response from your colleagues? Well, one person sends a solitary thumbs up emoji and the next person immediately posts a tortoise math puzzle.
A math puzzle, yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are looking at an incredible document from our stack, and it's just titled Work and Carpe Diem ... Docs.
It's quite the read.
It really is. It is essentially this deeply intimate philosophical dialogue between an author who is approaching retirement and a sounding board, and they are unpacking the invisible contracts we sign with our employers.
Yeah, the stuff we agree to without ever realizing it.
Exactly. So our mission today is to figure out why we treat our actual lives as a future project. Why we tie our core identities to busyness, and how to reclaim who we are before it's too late.
It's a big one.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that bizarre chat room interaction. I mean, it's funny, but it's also incredibly bleak, isn't it?
It perfectly encapsulates the modern paradox of work, I think. We have this profound underlying awareness of our own mortality, right? Yet we spend the vast majority of our waking hours acting as if we have an infinite amount of time.
Like we're just going to live forever.
Yeah. And the colleague posting the tortoise math puzzle isn't just being quirky. That is an act of deflection.
Oh, you think it's intentional?
Well, maybe not consciously, but it's a way of bypassing the existential reminder. Like, hey, it's a beautiful day and we are stuck inside. It's too uncomfortable to sit with that, so they jump straight back into a manageable distraction.
Wow, yeah. It's like offering someone a life preserver while the ship is actively sinking,
Yeah.
and they just look at you and ask if it comes with a Sudoku puzzle.
That is exactly what it is.
Well, the author of our source document actually brings up another interaction that highlights this perfectly. They're talking to a severely stressed, chronically time-starved coworker.
We all know the type.
Right. And the author, who is genuinely just 1 year out from retirement, so they have the mileage to actually back this up, says to her, no one on their deathbed wished they'd spent more time at the office.
The classic line.
The classic line. We have all heard it, but it completely bounces off this coworker. It just fails to land entirely.
What's fascinating here is exactly why it fails. I mean, the document outlines this whole taxonomy of how people approach their lives.
Yeah, break that down for us.
Well, you have some people who focus almost exclusively on the negative, the cynics. Then you have people steeped in toxic positivity who are just ignoring reality altogether.
Right, the good vibes only crowd.
Exactly. But then you have the most dangerous and arguably the most common group. These are the people who intellectually endorse the concept of balance, but they treat it as a future project. So they nod along to the deathbed quote, and then they just immediately turn back to their inbox.
Spot on. Psychologists actually have a term for that cognitive loop. It's called future discounting.
Future discounting.
Yeah, and when you apply that to our entire lives, it turns into this perpetual deferral. We are incredibly bad at assessing long-term consequences versus short-term urgency. We just assume that the future will arrive exactly as we envision it.
Man, it's the mental equivalent of saving a really expensive, beautiful bottle of wine for a special occasion that never actually comes. And then one day you open the cellar and realize the wine has turned to vinegar.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, we assume the sunny afternoon, the retirement, the time to finally reconnect with our kids, we assume those things are guaranteed to be waiting for us in pristine condition.
It's just like they're just sitting on a shelf.
So we don't feel any urgency to drink the wine or, love the life right now, which is a tragic miscalculation. The coworker hears the deathbed quote. She agrees with the philosophy, but her brain categorizes living life as a task for Q4 of her existence.
Right.
And right now, she has a quarterly report due.
But wait, I need to challenge this, because if we connect this to perpetual deferral, it's not purely psychological, is it?
What do you mean?
Look, we can sit here and philosophize about Carpe Diem to you listening at home, but reality bites. Rent is due. Mortgages have to be paid. Healthcare, especially here, is tied to employment.
Oh, absolutely.
If you opt out of the hustle, you risk your family's security. So isn't it just rational to put your head down and work hard? It can't just be that we are terrible at prioritizing.
You are absolutely right that baseline survival demands work, and the economic realities are incredibly harsh. But the document makes a really crucial distinction here between necessary work and performative busyness.
Performative busyness.
Yeah. The author identifies what they call the load-bearing beam of this whole dysfunction, which is equating busyness with importance.
Well,
if your primary goal is just paying the mortgage, you do your work and you go home. But if you quietly suspect that your worth as a human being is contingent on your productivity, then slowing down isn't just taking a rest.
what is it then?
Slowing down becomes an existential threat.
Oh, wow. So if I stop working, I stop being important, I stop being me.
Exactly. That is why the deathbed argument can't compete. You are presenting a rational argument about mortality to someone whose core identity is currently held together by their Outlook calendar.
That is so bleak.
And corporate language brilliantly enables this dynamic.
The language is totally insidious. Terms like going above and beyond or being a real team player or showing you are highly invested.
Yes.
The source points out how this vocabulary completely reframes self-abnegation, literally sacrificing your own needs and boundaries as a moral character strength. HR didn't invent those phrases, but they certainly rely on them.
Because it is a remarkably elegant extraction mechanism.
By extraction mechanism, you mean the company gets maximum output, but they pay you in good job stickers instead of actual cash or time off.
Precisely. The business doesn't even need to coerce you or threaten your job security. You do it to yourself. You give them your free labor, your evenings, your weekends.
You feel good about it.
You do. You actually feel a sense of gratitude and virtue for doing it. The cruel irony for the workaholic is that the more they give, the more they are taken for granted. The extraordinary simply becomes the expected.
Wow.
You think you are building credit with the company, but you aren't. You are just setting a new floor for what is demanded of you daily.
The author uses this haunting phrase in the text. They call it signing a contract in invisible ink.
Yeah, that line really stuck with me.
Because the company didn't sign anything, they didn't promise to love you back. But the workaholic signs this one-sided invisible contract using their life's hours, hoping it pays out in loyalty.
And breaking that habit is incredibly difficult because of a psychological phenomenon called social mirroring. We look to the people around us to establish the baseline of normal behavior.
Right. It's like standing at a rock concert.
Okay, how so?
Well, if everyone else is standing up and you decide to sit down in your assigned seat, you can't see the stage anymore. The baseline effort is dictated by the crowd, not the actual rules of the venue.
That is a perfect analogy. Busyness is the water everyone swims in. It's the culture. So if you decide to opt out, if you decide to just fulfill your job description and log off at 5:00 p.m., it feels genuinely transgressive.
You feel like you're doing something wrong.
You feel a creeping guilt, as if you are doing something morally wrong just by living a balanced life. And that's because the social mirror is reflecting a completely different expectation.
But if that performative busyness is the water we swim in, that water is exhausting. You can't sustain that level of performative panic consciously, not forever.
No, nobody can.
Which leads to the next major theme in the source, how we survive it. We go on autopilot.
Living on autopilot serves a very specific protective purpose in a hyper-busy environment. It functions as an anesthetic. It numbs you.
I think everyone listening to this has felt that at some point. But what exactly are we numbing ourselves against?
The existential noise.
Yeah.
Think about those quiet moments right before you fall asleep, when the distractions fade and you suddenly wonder, is this it? Is this what my life amounts to?
Oh, the void questions.
The void questions, exactly. If your routine is full enough, if you have back-to-back meetings, a constantly pinging phone, and minor crises to put out, that existential dread stays below the threshold of awareness.
The busyness is a shield.
Yeah, You never have to ask the hard questions about your life's purpose if you are perpetually reacting to an overflowing inbox.
So we praise the overflowing inbox because it gives us an excuse not to look at our actual lives.
Yes.
And people will defend that inbox to the death. There's this fascinating section in the text about people deliberately avoiding automation.
Oh, this part is wild.
Right. You logically assume everyone wants their job to be easier. But the author documents this whole subspecies of organizational dysfunction where people actively resist fixing tedious, broken processes.
Because their identity is the current way. If your entire sense of value comes from managing a chaotic, broken system, automating that system feels like automating yourself out of existence.
The author talks about looking at thousands of hours wasted on useless processes that could be eliminated or streamlined with a few small tweaks. But the person whose job it is to fix it has a vested interest in the complexity.
Right.
Someone makes themselves utterly indispensable by being the only human on Earth who understands a completely broken workaround.
It's fossilized autopilot. Someone made a panicked temporary decision 5 years ago and it calcified into a foundational assumption.
And nobody questions it.
Questioning it feels dangerous to the entire team. Because if this massive, time-consuming process turns out to be arbitrary, what else in your professional life might be completely arbitrary?
Which makes the author of our source document a very dangerous person to have in a traditional office.
Oh, absolutely.
They spent their career challenging exactly that. The document lists the hallmarks of their career. They aggressively automated error-prone processes. They glued disparate systems together to make things run smoothly. They loudly encouraged work-life balance among their coworkers.
Yeah.
And they organized activities to bring laughter and fun into otherwise joyless workspaces.
Which, if you look at it objectively, is a remarkable, deeply human list of achievements. That is exactly the kind of person you want on your team.
You would think so. But here's where it gets really interesting. Doing all of those wonderful human things got the author fired. Multiple times.
It makes perfect sense when you understand the mechanics of the system they were operating in. What's fascinating here is the metaphor the source uses to explain those firings.
Immune response one.
Yeah. The author describes themselves as a one-person organizational immune response. They were essentially the white blood cells trying to heal the workplace. But sometimes the corporate body rejects the cure.
Because fixing things threatens the people who are the disease or who are the broken process.
Exactly.
Like if a manager's importance is tied to having their team work 60-hour weeks, encouraging work-life balance is basically sedition.
Right.
Bringing laughter into a joyless place makes you look like you aren't taking the shared misery seriously enough. You're breaking the social mirror.
You are. But it's crucial to note that the author framed those firings as worth it. Because by refusing to conform to the sickness, they lived with fewer regrets.
Yeah.
Which serves as the ultimate rebuke to the terrified workaholic who believes that if they just comply with the misery, they will be safe.
And that brings us to the darkest part of the document. Because the workaholic thinks playing by the rules saves you.
They do.
You sacrifice your weekends, you ignore the sunny afternoons, you manage the broken processes, and in return, the company protects you. But the author's story takes a turn that shatters that illusion completely.
It really does.
Playing by the rules does not save you from the ultimate corporate reality, which is mass layoffs.
The machinery of the business does not care how many math puzzles you solved or how much invisible ink you used.
In 2009, the author was hit by the fallout of the global subprime mortgage fiasco. SAP, a massive software corporation, laid off over 3,000 people.
Just a huge number.
And the author had given their absolute best to this company, gave their evenings and weekends, played the game, and then was, in their own words, taken out with the trash in 2009.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is the ultimate proof that loyalty in business is inherently one-directional.
Completely one-sided.
You can be the most dedicated, brilliant, self-sacrificing employee in the building, but macroeconomic shifts will always trump your personal contribution. The reciprocity we imagine exists is simply not real.
And what's truly heartbreaking is that this isn't just the author's individual experience. The document outlines a generational trauma of corporate betrayal within their own family.
Yeah, that part was heavy.
It's a chilling pattern. The author's father, who worked in an era where loyalty was supposedly rewarded, was fired right before retirement.
Unbelievable.
He lost his promised pension, suffered a heart attack from the stress, and literally had to fight a grinding legal battle just to win back the pension he had already earned.
Contrast that mid-20th century promise with the reality of what actually happened, and the collateral damage is just staggering.
The collateral damage is fatal. A coworker of the father's, who was in the exact same situation fighting for his pension, also had a heart attack and died. A man is just gone. His life extinguished by the stress of a broken corporate promise. And the pattern continued into the next generation. The author's wife, Michelle, was shown the door after almost 30 years of dedicated vocation. 30 years.
The implicit promise is made, the loyalty is aggressively collected for decades, and when the financial moment comes, the promise turns out to be entirely decorative.
Decorative, that's a great word for it.
It forces you to look in the mirror and ask the terrifying question at the core of this document. Who are you when the office doesn't need you?
Man, think about that for a second. If you are keeping yourself endlessly busy just to avoid answering that question, you are walking on glass.
Totally.
You build your entire identity around being the go-to person, the hard worker, the indispensable fixer. And then a reorganization email arrives on a random Tuesday, and your entire sense of self, your entire belonging just evaporates in a single afternoon.
So the natural follow-up is, what do you do when the contract is broken, when the invisible ink washes away and you're standing in the rubble of that identity? How do you rebuild?
Well, from the wreckage of that 2009 mass layoff, the author actually forged a profound new path. They didn't just wallow in the betrayal. After being taken out with the trash, they enrolled in a career exploration course. They are sitting in this room, still reeling from the layoff, and they look at the facilitator at the front of the class. They see lives being visibly changed right in front of them, people finding hope again. And the author says, I want her job.
The very system that failed them became the doorway to the work that actually matters. They stopped trying to climb a broken ladder and started helping other people off the floor.
And now, over a decade later, the author works at Work BC doing exactly that, helping displaced people who didn't just lose a paycheck, but lost a sense of self, helping them reinvent themselves.
It's an amazing pivot.
It really is. And to capture this entire philosophy, all these decades of mileage, observation, and hard-won wisdom, the author wrote a poem. It's called The Ledger.
And it is a striking, visceral piece of writing. It manages to honor the heavy gravity of corporate exploitation without sounding like a preachy sermon.
The imagery in the poem is haunting. It talks about a man found dead at his desk on a Monday after 3 days. His inbox is still full, and his coffee is described as cold and gray as wool.
Such a powerful line.
And the machine barely pauses. By Tuesday, they hired his replacement. By Wednesday, his office was reorganized.
The line that sticks out to me is, no one asked what his life meant.
Yeah. It talks about a woman working a broken process for 10,000 hours just because the system demanded it. It talks of the author being disposed of in '09. And then it hits the ultimate realization about the deathbed, tying the whole document together.
Right.
The poem says, no one on their deathbed whispers, I should have stayed, I should have billed more hours. They whisper names, they whisper places, they whisper gardens, lunch, and flowers.
That is the real ledger, not the billable hours or the quarterly reports, but the human connections and the moments of actual living.
And the strategy of what the author decided to do with this poem is brilliant. They didn't just frame it for their living room wall, they decided to post it on LinkedIn.
Which is essentially walking into the belly of the beast.
It is the ultimate hub of hustle culture. It's the platform where everyone is performing their absolute best, most polished corporate team player routine. Posting a poem about a man dying at his desk and being replaced in 24 hours on LinkedIn is a bold move.
This raises an important question about how we view honesty in the professional sphere. Bringing this kind of unvarnished existential truth to a networking site is risky, but the document makes a crucial distinction here. The poem is not cynical.
Right. It's not just lobbing a grenade into the corporate world for the sake of destruction.
Exactly. Cynicism is the belief that everything is fundamentally broken, nothing matters, and so there is no point in trying. The poem doesn't say that at all.
No, it doesn't.
The poem says this specific system, the corporate ledger, is broken and will never hold your actual worth. But it ends with a beautiful, actionable compass point. Clock out. Go find the ones who love you. There's still some warmth left in this earth.
So what does this all mean? We've traced this journey from a sunny afternoon ignored for a math puzzle, through the illusion of busyness's importance, all the way to the generational trauma of one-sided corporate loyalty.
It's quite the ride.
It really is. I think it means recognizing the immense danger of perpetual deferral. It means realizing that treating your life as a future project is a trap you might never escape. If you tie your worth to your corporate output, you are handing your soul over to a ledger that does not care about you and will replace you by Tuesday.
And realizing that is a liberating shift, not a depressing one. Because once you finally accept that the loyalty is one-directional, you can stop signing the invisible contract with your evenings and weekends. You can step off the autopilot.
You can step outside while it's wonderfully warm and sunny. You have to clock out. You have to go find the ones who love you because they are the only ledger that actually matters.
But as you consider doing that, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've talked extensively about how quickly our professional identities can evaporate in a single afternoon reorganization email. Yeah.
If that's true, if the corporate self is that fragile, how much of what you consider to be your core personality today, your relentless drive, your perfectionism, your endless need to be productive, how much of that is actually you? And how much of it is just a deeply ingrained coping mechanism for a system that was never designed to love you back?
Yeah. Think about that the next time you look out the window at a beautiful day and you catch yourself reaching for the keyboard instead of the door. Until next time.